Hi Taka, is
Hello.
our is our voice audible right now?
Hi.
Hi, is our voice audible to you?
Oh, there you go. I can hear you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yay.
Okay, before starting, I'd like to introduce you, Mr. Taka Shibata. He's the president of SEDS Waseda, Japan, and right now his professional experience is business development in internship in space, and he has done his masters in he has done his bachelor's in aerospace engineering, and right now he's pursuing his research under high precision test method for lab satellites. So without further ado, let's hear from Mr. Taka. Okay.
All right. So nice to see you all. Yeah, as he kindly introduced me, I'm currently in my master's course studying mechanical engineering, but I focus on satellite structures. And yeah, I have experience working at a space startup in Japan and also as a business development and marketing intern. And yeah, there's a big space opportunity in Japan, which is a very exciting field to be in right now, and as it is, I'm sure, in India as well. And I would like to learn. I hope you get something out of this webinar from me, and I hope to learn from you as well. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you too, Taka. So, regarding the main agenda of today's webinar is we'd like to know what are the opportunities that space industries requires, like what are the opportunities and obstacles we face as engineers to go into the space industries, because most of the people here, they want to pursue their research or they want to pursue their career in space industries as well. So,
Mhm.
like, what's the scene there in Japan? Like, what's the procedure and all?
Right. So could you raise the volume of your speaker? Sorry, I can't hear you very well. Like I can hear you clearly, but it's just the volume is a little low.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
See, the question I asked was like, we'd like to know that what is the
Hmm.
current thing like in space industries, like what as engineers, what is required of us to make take the next step so that we can be a part of space industries, and what are the opportunities and obstacles that they provide us with regarding the this.
Right. So I guess it kind of depends on the type of space you are pursuing. For example, for like rockets, uh, it's more you don't really require a lot of hands-on experience. Like they usually require experience working with satellites, even before you start working, which is a very difficult set of experience to have. Sometimes there are universities that specialize in research about satellites, and some laboratories, in particular universities, will make and actually build and launch satellites. So the window of job opportunities for satellite companies are often very narrow, as they can only take university students that are in that a particular laboratory in a university. So sometimes the window of opportunity is very small, but at the same time, just being in that environment alone can land you to jobs automatically. So which is pretty interesting. So in terms of rockets and spacecraft, it depends on the project itself, what the company or agency is working on, but they usually don't require you to have a particular set of experience. Just the fact that you graduate from with an engineering degree is fine.
So, regarding this, like, what is your path? Like, what did you do to get to the stage at where you are? Tell us something about your research and whatever the obstacles you faced while pursuing that.
Right. I'm in my master's now, so I'll start with my bachelor's story. When I was in my bachelor's course, I did mainly coursework, and from my third year of university, I started to be in a laboratory where I was designing a sampling device for use on the moon to collect ice. Um, so that was my first actual hands-on experience working in a space project. I had coursework where I had hands-on training with tools and mechanisms, but my laboratory from my third year was the first engineering experience in a space field. And in terms of outside opportunities, it was actually very hard to find for me to find a space project to work on because most companies require at least a bachelor's degree to have an internship position. So you have to be a master's student to be doing an internship as an engineer. So that was the most challenging for me to find opportunities to work on space projects as an undergrad. However, I did have a laboratory in my university that was working on space, which was fortunate for me, and I was able to be part of that for 2 years.
Regarding your current research that you're pursuing on satellites, thermal, you said it was something about the thermal stability of satellites and all. So could you tell us about that?
Right. So the current research, sorry, what was the question again?
Uh, about your current research, like what you're pursuing right now. Like, so
Okay.
you can tell us about that.
So the research that I'm doing right now is about developing a high precision test, higher precision tests for big satellites. Right now, there's a trend with small satellites because they're more commercially accessible. But there's also a need for a larger set of satellites for better observation of space to have a better scientific understanding of space. In order to do that, you need larger antennas, basically, and to test them is very difficult. While you need precision for the testing, it is hard to have, let's say, a vacuum test for a 10-meter satellite because you can, what is a 10-meter vacuum chamber, right? You've never seen that before. So just working with various test methods to cope with a larger set of instruments and precise machining.
It's a really great pleasure to meet you, Mr. Taka. I would like to ask you a question on how to pursue my space career. As an AC student, what courses should I pursue for a satellite communication department? Electronics and communication engineer. How would you want me to pursue the course? What courses would you want me to pursue in future so as to get into a satellite communication department in a space agency?
Sorry, can you speak more clearly? Sorry.
Just
I think the audio is just a little low.
So my friend is asking. He's from electronics and communications engineering. He's pursuing his bachelor's in that. So he's asking like what courses or what should he do in order to go into the satellite communication part, the aspect of space. So he has a doubt
Oh, okay,
about satellite communications, satellite comms.
Okay. Satellite communication, right? I think most like hands-on projects are mostly done in the commercial sector as opposed to government agencies. Agencies would be planning and executing those projects, but the ones that are actually building it are going to be contractors that are commercial, and there are so the companies will be building those, but in the R&D part, of it, there will be some universities or some professors working with those. So maybe opportunities like researchers that are working on communication technology is a great way to start. And I would say searching for companies that actually get the contract to work on those is where the actual building is happening. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, one another question I wanted to ask you, like regarding a bachelor's thesis, you said something about the sampling device on moon. So could you
Right.
tell us more on that?
Okay. Um, so there have been recent observations of the moon where there have been evidences of the presence of water on the moon, specifically in the ice form, on the surface of the moon and a little beneath it. However, nobody has actually discovered and collected presence of water. Um, it's only been done. It's only been observed through photographs, and analyzed information, and different governments and companies are trying to come up with ways to safely get to the moon and to safely collect it. And having drills, traditional methods of sampling, is usually drills or scoops. However, having moving parts of sampling devices can produce heat, which can actually melt the ice into a water state, or even worse, vaporize it, which makes it harder to collect them. And what my laboratory did was we decided to collect them using electrostatic force. So applying very high voltage in a tube to consecutively bring ice particles up inside the tube, and that works because particles on the surface of the moon, they actually are they're electrostatically charged due to space radiation, solar rays, and stuff like that. So we decided to do it electrostatically. Happily, our experiment worked on the ground, so we're assuming that with 1/6 of gravity on the moon, it will work out in a higher efficiency. So we're currently working with the JAXA, Japan's aerospace agency, to potentially have that piece of technology on their ongoing mission.
So why did you choose this field? Like, what drove you to pursue space regarding this?
Right. Actually, growing up, I was not very space child, so to speak. I was always interested in technology. I love airplanes, for example. I liked the idea of space, but it was not until I entered university that I saw a big space boom, especially in the commercial sector. I mean, we've all seen videos of Elon Musk and SpaceX launching their rockets, returning the rockets, landing them, and all those commercial accomplishments were something that I thought even I could do. Because I thought space was a very elite thing to pursue and a very prestigious sort of field. But now it's becoming more commercially and open for everyone, and I thought I could pursue it. And yeah, just being in a time right now where there's more people, more projects trying to get involved in space was what really drove me, and I was able to go to space startups, go to space events, things like that.
So it seems like Japan is like it's really easier in Japan to pursue space regarding it, because you have all those space events and stuff like that you can go to. Okay. And regarding this, what are your future aspirations? Like, you're currently pursuing a master, so what are your plans beyond that?
I'm sorry?
I was asking, what are your plans beyond, because currently you're pursuing a master's right now. So after this, what is your aim? Like, what do you want to do regarding to
Okay.
that?
So I finished my master's course in 2021 in the spring, and I'm planning on working at a heavy industry, which is a large corporation, is a series of large corporations in Japan that are government contracted, with the design and development and launch of rockets and satellites. So in Japan, there are three major companies that work specifically with JAXA to build rockets, build satellites, and the spacecraft. So I'm planning to work there as a first experience. So because there's a whole history of building them, so I think that will be a first, a great opportunity to learn and take up as much as I can. And then 5 to 10 years after working there, I'm planning on going to a startup or even better, hopefully start my own.
Hey Taka, my
Hey.
question to you is that how far are we towards mining on Moon and asteroid and using it to go further into the space? And
Mm.
do we currently have the technology to mine it?
Okay. So the first steps of mining in space, especially on the moon, are going to be taking part in within the next 5 years. There's a Japanese company called iSpace. Uh, they're planning their launch in 2021, and they'll be the first commercial lander on the moon to go around and start collecting samples. And they're trying to collect water and also rare metal resources, which can then be used to do manufacturing on the moon with in-site resources. So that will take part in 2 years, and so I think that's the earliest steps. And have you all heard of the Lunar Gateway? So there are many countries, including U.S., Japan, Europe, and Canada, I believe, are working together to build a space station around the lunar orbit. That will start to be launched in late 2020, and through that station, they're trying to bring people down to the moon to do research and to start doing mining. But the actual large scale mining, I think, will be done in the next 10 to 20 years, because the next 10 years they'll be starting to put bases and long-term presence of people. And beyond it, I think it's a race between government and SpaceX. As we all know, Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars, and they're trying to do that, I think, in the late 2020s. I hope that will be on time, but unfortunately, with big space projects, things tend to be delayed. So I suspect that'll be done in 2030s or 2040s.
One of our friends also have questions for you.
Hey Taka, I'm currently
Hi.
pursuing mechanical, just like you, bachelor's in mechanical, and I'm really interested in CAD modeling and the CFD softwares. So, is there a scope for these softwares, or anything else that I would have to do to get into the industry? And what are the softwares that you guys use? Can you brief me about them also?
Okay, so it's wonderful that you're doing CAD. It's essential to building anything. You have to start by drawing the blueprint. One of the things that are very expected of mechanical engineers is actually the knowledge about material science and engineering. Not just even designers that only work on the designs of structures. They have to start from ground up. It all starts with the selection of materials, and that tends to be very tricky. If you're a mechanical engineering student, you would know that there are hundreds of types of just metal alone, depending on what type of heat you add to the metal, what combination of materials added to it, and things like that. And one small tweak in metal can make a huge difference in its performance, and that is something that is overlooked at. But when you speak to engineers working on projects, even for designers or people working with blueprints, all the way to working hands-on, material science and engineering is a big requirement. Yeah.
And can you
And
brief
sorry,
me
what was
about?
your other question?
Yeah, it was what softwares that you guys use over there for doing your analysis and all. Like
I'm
here
sorry?
you have to carry out some analysis on your rover or lander, whatever you are building. So what softwares, what like we use ANSYS over here. Yes, for simulations and all. Which software you guys prefer or use over there?
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
what was the question?
my friend here asking like what kind of simulation softwares do you guys use for before making something? You obviously like have the blueprint over there. So what simulation software do you guys prefer in there over there? Because as mechanical engineers, we use SolidWorks and ANSYS and the
CFD softwares and MATLAB as well. So what softwares do you guys?
Right. Okay. So for at the design process, we use a lot of SolidWorks and MATLAB. I think those two are the main softwares. But for simulating specific environments, if it's just a designing material test and structure basic simulations, we'll use MATLAB, SolidWorks, and the simulations that you can do within the software. But when it comes to specific environment tests or specialized simulations, we would actually build our own models, starting from scratch, usually using C++. Yeah.
and
One another question, like, what are your views on the commercialization of space industries? Like, how can private industries and government industries of space, especially, they can come together to make it more feasible, like make the space industries more feasible?
Right. So over the past 10 years, we've seen more rise of the commercial sector of working with space. But I see there's a big barrier still of the launch cost and the development cost of rockets and whatever we put in space. And the interesting dynamic here is that right now we have a lot of VCs, venture capitals, and investors that are investing in space, but we have not seen a lot of actual products or results coming strongly operating as fully as a service. So over the next 10 years, we'll probably see more product of space actually out in the market, and we hope there's more of that, and the development cost of that is huge, which is why many startups are trying to do their own thing, but they're not they're either underfunded or not progressing as fast as they would like to. And the way the commercial sector and government agencies can work together is where the agencies can create funds to provide to the commercial sector and also guaranteed contracts. One of the biggest reasons why SpaceX has been so successful is they've been getting hundreds of millions of dollars directly from NASA to develop rockets and spacecraft, and they actually have guaranteed missions. So when they have a product done, they are for sure getting their first customers. As opposed to small startups, like say in Japan, that are building satellites, they're funding themselves on their own, and even if they have a product, they don't know if they are going to find a customer. So I think the dynamics between SpaceX and NASA is a very good case of a startup, and the collaboration between the private sector and the public sector.
It says like you also had your internship at business development in a space startup. Can you tell us more on that? Like, how is business correlated with in space industries?
Right. The honest reason why I took that research internship, was because I could not intern as a engineering as an engineering intern because I was still in my bachelor's. But I wanted to get to know and network with the engineers at the space startup. It was a satellite startup, and that was actually what I wanted to pursue. So just getting to know the engineers was my honest first reason to be there. But I had a little bit of marketing background working with startups. I had a friend who was working on his own startup, and I helped build his business model and do some of its PR. So, and the other thing was I thought there was big window of opportunity in the commercialization of space as well as big obstacles. So I wanted to see firsthand how the business team would operate in a space startup. At the time, that was between 2015 and 16. The startup that I worked at, they didn't have a satellite in operation yet, and yet the business people were pitching ideas, their business models to clients, to government agencies, and to investors. So it was interesting to see salespeople doing sales without a product. Yeah.
Hi Taka, I just wanted to know what is your vision of SEDS Waseda? How do you proceed as the president of SEDS Waseda? How do you proceed with the daily activities, and what do you plan to achieve out of your tenure as the president of SEDS Waseda?
So we have a very small team at SEDS Waseda. We just started it last year. We actually have 4 active members, and I would say about 20 that come in once in a while. We actually have a very small space community even in large universities like Waseda. The whole university together, we have about 40,000 students, but only a few, I would say a few hundred people study mechanical or aerospace engineering, but very few are actually interested in space. So we're a small community, but we host weekly meetings to discuss the current news in space, research in space, and outside events, internships, and things like that. And we also collaborate, work very closely with the other SEDS chapter, which is at the University of Tokyo. They have a little bit of a larger community, and together from SEDS Waseda and SEDS University of Tokyo, we compete regularly at outside space competitions, which is, I think, the main activity in SEDS Japan. So we compete in engineering conferences, engineering contests, idea contests where you pitch in ideas to get a little bit of money to start projects. And also international forums, government forums that offer seats to have young people speak to government officials about the future exploration of space, things like that.
Okay, my friend over here has a question. She's asking how do you guys inspire, or do you have some kind of outreach session to inspire young generation of Japan to get in pursue space sciences as their career or get interested in space?
So the question is how do the young people in Japan get inspired to pursue space?
Do you guys have an outreach session, or how do you guys, what is your role? Do you guys have any role in inspiring the younger generation of Japan to pursue career in space industries?
Okay. So we have Japan already has a few I would say summer camps or workshops that are run pretty big in Japan that promote space. Some of which are actually hosted by former astronauts. So there are some opportunities where elementary school students, middle school students can actually experience a little bit of space in working with astronauts, learning from them. And I'm sorry, the question is what we can do or what is out there?
Yeah. What you can do, or like, what is the current situation in Japan in general regarding space,
Okay.
like regarding doing that,
Ah.
inspiring young.
Okay. I hope you can hear me on your side. We have not competed in international space-related competitions for now, but we have competed within Japan. We have a satellite design contest in Japan where we pitch an idea and a simulation of satellite design. Each year has a mission, and we have won some awards doing that. As for international activities, we regularly send students to international conferences. I don't know if do you know IAC, the International Astronautical Congress? Uh, and we send students to that, and the SGC, the Space Generation Congress. So we have regular members attending those. They're not competitions, they're conferences, but that's our international activities. Oh, and also there's APR staff and APSW. The APR staff is a government-to-government conference for space agencies in the Asia-Pacific region. It's a government-level conference, but students can attend that as well. And the APSGW is a conference specifically for young people between ages of 15 and 35. It's held every year in a country in Asia, and this year it's in Japan. So there will be students attending that, and I actually helped organize APSGW this year. Yeah. So not competitions, but yeah. Okay. We would love to collaborate with SEDS India and across the board. I think it's hard to do physical interactions between us and you guys over there. But things like opportunities and within the country that we can share. I can always share what's going on in Japan in terms of space activities, both government and commercial. And any international conferences or competitions that are available, we can always exchange information in that, and hopefully we can meet at a conference or a competition. Like on a personal note, it's very difficult to obtain information about activities, commercial activities in space in other countries. Big news, like even for countries like the U.S., we hear about SpaceX and Blue Origin all the time, but we don't hear much about the small startups or activities. So for India, we know about the lunar landing. I'm sorry to hear about that, but I hope there's progress. And I know that your prime minister is planning to send people to space. They're trying to have that capability. So we hear big news like that, but small activities or startups, I don't know much about, and I would love to learn from you. And I'm always happy to share information about startups activities in Japan and their progress. 2 days ago was actually Space Day in Japan, and there was a big celebration within Tokyo where executives from, I would say, pretty much all of the space startups in Japan were gathering, and they were exchanging ideas on what was going on, how they can do better, and things like that. So I can always share that with you. I think the most possible prospect for starting your own company, the easiest and the most demanding right now is analysis of satellite images. There are lots of startups taking new photographs and taking photos frequently, but there are not enough resources to analyze that. And there has not been a single firm or a company working to analyze those data. Right now we have big data technology as well as the use of AI, which can probably analyze more pictures of the ground and also extract data from it. So I would say the analysis of satellite image is probably the easiest because you just need you don't need to build satellites and things like that. And there's more image providers, but there's not enough analyzing people analyzing it. So that's the more possible vision. But on a personal note, I would hope to. I think my dream would be to have my own rocket, to have my own spacecraft, to go to the moon personally or to Mars personally. I think that's a cool ambition for anyone to have. Yeah. Oh, one thing about starting businesses. One interesting theory I heard recently was in order to be a key player in space, you have to start with software. Like, we know the big players, right? Elon Musk, he made billions making PayPal. Jeff Bezos, he made billions making Amazon and online shops, right? And Richard Branson, well, he has a lot of IT media. So I think in order to do, like, independently do business in space, I think you have to find a market that's, you have to start with a market where it's really profitable, it's quick, easy, and you can make billions off of, and then to transition to space, instead of just going into space trying to make money only from space. I think that's a more strategic approach to it, but it's something that they've all worked to do. Like Jeff Bezos, I think he when he was in college, he started a SEDS chapter at, I think, Stanford. He was a SEDS member and a founder, so he's always had a vision for space, even as a student. But he went into software because that's where the opportunity was. And once he got his billions, he started a space startup. So I think that's a step that we can all learn from. It's a hard process, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting theory. Right. So there are we're making two approaches to expand SEDS Japan. One is to have more members within the university, and two is to have more people coming in from the outside. So SEDS Japan and SEDS Waseda, SEDS U Tokyo, our activities and memberships are not restricted to the university students. One thing that I forgot to mention that SEDS Tokyo does is they release annual newsletters of space news, events, and internships. And we currently have about 1,000 subscribers, most of whom are not students. So we share information that is useful for anybody who's interested in space, not just university students at the university. So they get to learn about space, what's going on, and at the end we share events of SEDS Japan or SEDS Waseda. So I thought that was an interesting system to have in recruiting, because being a university society, it's often hard to promote events or activities just within universities, putting ads or posters on the school wall. So we kind of approach people from the outside. And the other thing is we try to publicize our activities as much as we can. We have a Twitter account where we post our meetups, and yeah, just getting our word of mouth. Yeah. But we do, for Vision, we hope to compete in international competitions, which are very hard to do because uh, oftentimes you have to fly yourself out to the competitions. Uh, the first few rounds you can do online, but the final ones you have to physically go, which is hard to do both from a money perspective and just schedule-wise, especially when you have school. So we are hoping to have more international competitions and hopefully winners too. Can I throw a question back to you guys? What are your visions for your SEDS chapter? Oh, and what are your current activities as a chapter? What do you guys do on a regular basis, and how do you hope to expand that?
Okay, I'll answer it vocally. Can you hear me? Okay, so I am SEDS VIT chair. So in my chapter, we have 3 departments right now: core, outreach, and projects.
We don't really have we don't have internship opportunities within my own university. We don't really have a system where we do things like research internships at the university. For example, research opportunities are part of the school curriculum, so it's not really an internship, I guess. But for as a student in studying in Tokyo, we have access to internships at the companies and startups within Tokyo. So that is something that students at my university does. Because there are no opportunities within the university, would go out within the city in public. Yeah. Oh wow, you guys actually do a lot. That is impressive. So I think we currently have a core group from your standpoint. Yeah, it's so cool that you're doing outreach and actually doing international competitions. That's really cool. Wow.
So, so you guys have any other questions, Taka? Okay, so as it seems, most of our queries were given by you, were solved by you, answered by you. So I think that's about it because we had a wonderful session with you, and it's an honor to be with you. So thank you for this session, and then we'd hope to have a collaboration between SEDS India and SEDS Japan soon regarding inferences.
Right.
So
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to speak with fellow SEDS members overseas, which is something that we have actually never done before. So I look forward to collaborations. Please do teach me about the space environment in India, and I hope to keep in touch with all of you. You probably know my contacts, so you can feel free to ask me questions. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything. So yeah, please keep in touch, and I hope to see you all soon. All right, see ya. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, can I take a screenshot with you guys so we can share it to the SEDS group? How do you take a screenshot?
yeah, that's totally fine with us.
Okay. Do you know how to do it?
Windows plus print screen. Windows plus print screen. Windows plus print screen.
I'll just take a picture.
Yeah, we'll take a screenshot and then we can send it to you as well.
Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'll definitely share it with you guys as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye.
Thank you.